First, let me start by welcoming every one of you in joining the first ever webinar that's been hosted by the East African Regulatory Affairs Professional Association. My name is Nathan. I am a coordinator, the team coordinator for the association and overall strategist and uh, overall strategist and team coordinator for the East African Regulatory Affairs Professional Association. We also have with us Mr. Abebe Alamneh. He's one of the medicine restoration specialists in the Ethiopian Food and Drug Administration. Today, our topic is going to be, as aforementioned, the IGAD medicine registration harmonization. It's brief overview and a few highlights would be given. So before we start, let me give you a brief highlight on the training, on the webinar, as well as the trainers. So today we're going to have, as mentioned, the title, the IGAD medicine harmonized medicine harmonization procedure and process. We're going to give a brief overview of the harmonization process in IGAD, as well as the regulatory harmonization process. What does it look like? What's the general things? What are the specific things? What are the guidelines pertaining to this process? And brief detail on all member countries and how the application is going to is underwent in each member country. So we're going to talk about that briefly. And then we're going to also have a brief discussion about application submission and assessment procedures in the IGAD region. So we're going to talk about dossier. We're going to talk about dossier and the dossier acceptability, the formats and the elements of a complete dossier in the IGAD region. We're going to talk about administrative requirements, administrative papers, what are required, and what official payments are also required. And we're going to finally have, after some few discussions, we're going to have a question and answer. As Mr. Abebe mentioned, please send your questions if you have any to Mr. Abebe via text, or later on after we have finished our discussion, we can have also a question and answer session by Zoom, where you signal me or signal any one of us when you have a question at the end of the session, so that we can have a brief question and brief answer from our trainers. So in order to give you a brief highlight for our trainers, we're going to have two trainers. One is our guest from Kenya, Mr. Anthony Tortoitch. He is Kenya Office IGAD region expert, and he will be giving us the first overview, and our second trainer is going to be Mr. Yibeltal, and he will also give us further descriptions on our topic today. So initially, Mr. Anthony will give us an overview on IGAD medicine harmonization process, and then Mr. Yibeltal will give us specifics on document requirements, application procedures, assessment procedures, administrative issues management, and we will also have a question and answer with Mr. Yibeltal as well. So I think without further ado, I think more people are joining us right now. And for those of you who are just joining us, we have we're just beginning our webinar and on IGAD harmonization, medicine harmonization process and registration process. And we're going to have a brief overview on that topic. And I think it's better, for the interest of time, to give the floor to Mr. Anthony Tortoitch to give us an overview about IGAD harmonization process, medicine harmonization process. So I think, Mr. Anthony, I think I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Nathan. Let me share my screen. Okay. If you can allow me, because just make me a co-host so that I can be able to share my screen.
Okay.
I'm called Anthony Tortoitch. I'm based in Nairobi, and I am the pharmaceutical expert working in IGAD as a medicine regulatory harmonization specialist. And I will share my. Thank you. I think I've been able to share now. Can you be able to see my screen?
Yes, we can. Yeah, I think I can.
Yes, I'll share these slides with the team.
Okay.
For those who would be interested, can be able to contact Yibeltal for more questions. I'm called Anthony Tortoitch. As I've said, I'm medicine regulatory harmonization specialist working in IGAD. I'm based in Nairobi. For those who are just joining for the first time and the audience that is there, we have IGAD is a regional economic bloc that is composed of 8 member states. Currently, we have 5 active member states because Eritrea suspended its membership, and as you can see, the population is quite huge, about above a quarter million, and then the land mass is quite huge in terms of the percentage in Africa. Unfortunately, I think IGAD as a region is an area that is also having a lot of areas that is semi-arid and arid areas, and also having conflict in terms of we call it politically unstable areas. So it has become very difficult to implement some activities in the region because of those areas. There are some countries like Somalia where it's purely actually very unstable. Just to give you an overview, is that IGAD has several departments, and ranges from the historical perspective of IGAD. It initially started as an entity, as a regional economic bloc that was supposed to fight drought and desertification because of the area. As I've said earlier, it's an area that is majorly arid and semi-arid. So it started as IGAD with double D to fight desertification and drought, and issues about food. So, and then it emerged to be a very strong anchor on peace and security. Then there was another area on agriculture, quite a number of issues, but the area that has also been coming because of security and peace is because of immigrants and refugees. So the issue of migration, population, movement here and there became a big issue, but at last now the new kid on the block is now health, because we realize that all these have an impact on health. And you can see from the current situation where we're discussing about COVID, you can see that movement really moves with diseases. So with that, we had to sit down and look at how can we have a health system that is resilient and can be able to give input to the whole society that is in IGAD region, and it has to be coordinated. So we in IGAD we developed what we call theory of change, and this is just a highlight of the theory of change of what is happening in terms of the health sector. And I've just highlighted the areas that are actually currently some of my other members are working on, and I will not focus on all of them. medicine regulatory harmonization is where I'll focus. We are also hoping to start something on antimicrobial resistance, which is anchored onto these majorly 5 pillars. These 5 pillars have been developed from the WHO health system strengthening pillars, where it has access of medicines, good health service delivery. It has also strengthening of information systems, strengthening health finances, health financing, and the human resource for health. So if you look at what we do now, we're majorly focusing on MRH, medicine regulatory harmonization, but there's another team in Djibouti, in Ethiopia, and in Uganda, and also in Kenya, dealing with continuum of care and management of communicable and non-communicable diseases. There's also a team dealing with knowledge management. There's also a team, cross-cutting is capacity building. So my focus would be just on medicine regulatory harmonization, MRH initiative. And it's something that is now becoming a global issue. But it started from the continental part of it, in terms of there were varying capacity in Africa in general, where each country is trying to do its own work to try to assure safe, efficacious, quality medicines to their populations. So you'll find, like in Africa, we have 54 member states, and in those 54 member states, each of them are trying to have their own regulation. But again, because these borders were made by Europeans, these borders are porous, and most of the people cross freely. If you look at like Moyale in Ethiopia and in Kenya, the people there are just moving freely, and even they have brothers and sisters across the border. You go to the side of Matema, Galabat, it's the same. If you go to Haweli, it's the same. So all these, if you go to Togo, to Togo or Washale, the inside of Somalia, is also the same. So you'll find that these porous borders facilitate movement of substandard and falsified medicine, and also because, like for example, if you look at Ethiopia, because the porous borders towards the Somali side is very difficult to regulate, and you'll find that there will be poor regulation in Ethiopia, in Somalia, but that product will now move towards Ethiopia and can affect the population. So that's why we decided to have an MRH initiative. So the MRH initiative was started at a continental level, and it's just basically geared towards harmonizing a lot of, especially at continental level, is registration and good manufacturing practice, and trying to remove the most expensive form of regulation where each country is supposed to do its own regulation. So we are trying to encourage countries to work together in terms of doing the same thing. You'll find a molecule like augmentin, for example, if I may just choose it, that is common to everybody who is maybe in this meeting, that medicine is registered in all of those countries, in Kenya, in Ethiopia, in Uganda, in Sudan, in South Sudan. But each of that medicine underwent individual registration in all those countries. So you'll find that it doesn't make sense to do work individually, because if it was evaluated once, then it means that it would have been very easy for the manufacturer of that product to go to access the market easily. And again, the quality of the dossier in terms of, because countries are not at the same level in terms of human resource, you realize that maybe a country like Somalia does not have a regulatory system, but Ethiopia has a good regulatory system, and you'll find that the dossier, the quality of that medicine in one country might be varied, because manufacturers generally tend to focus on areas where there is less regulation. So it's better to that's why we decided to develop an IGAD MRH initiative, because of this unpredictability of registration and inspection. So that is how MRH started from a continental level. The way it's being done at continental level is that they decided at continental level it is being coordinated by Africa Development Agency, now called AUDA, or some long time ago it used to be called NEPAD Agency. So that is the agency that coordinates Africa Medicine Regulatory Harmonization Initiative at the continental level. And then NEPAD works with the regional economic blocks. So there is East Africa Community, there is IGAD, there is ECOWAS, WAHO in West Africa, there is SADC in Southern Africa, there is OSHEAC in Central Africa. So they work with the REX to be able to develop this, to implement these joint activities, because they believe each regional economic bloc, if they harmonize each regional economic bloc, it will be easier to harmonize the whole of the African continent. So in IGAD, we had a robust process in terms of development of a proposal, because we were looking for funds at that particular point in time, and I'll give you the historical perspective. And in that time, when we were discussing, and let me just go to historical perspective, all this started from in 2014, where there was an IGAD meeting with WHO in Djibouti. And then in 2015, there was also another meeting in Djibouti between IGAD and WHO again to discuss about having an MRH initiative in the IGAD region. It went slowly, but at least at that particular point in 2015, there was what we call Addis Ababa Call of Action. And you can download this Addis Ababa Call of Action from the internet. Then at the same time in 2016, IGAD was developing its regional strategy. MRH activities were incorporated into that regional activity. It's just ending, and right now we are reviewing the regional strategy. Then there was also another meeting supported by the WHO, the World Bank, that is the WB's World Bank, and where there is Khartoum Declaration that was issued again. It's almost the same as Addis Ababa Call of Action. And at that particular point, we agreed that I was hired as a consultant, and now we were able to develop some few things here and there in terms of benchmarking NMRAs, having a first regional quality survey, and then releasing the results last year. And then this year we were able to have a key milestones, which maybe Yibeltal will talk about it later. First joint assessment. Right now we are talking about the third joint assessment, and we are planning to do some pharmacovigilance activities. And in that we have started training healthcare workers on pharmacovigilance and capacity for local manufacturers. So in generally, what we are working on in IGAD is that we have a regional MRH objective, which is to increase access of quality assured medicines that are safe and efficacious through a harmonized regulatory system. And it has four major objectives: to strengthen national regulatory systems and regional systems, to implement harmonized technical guidelines, which Yibeltal will talk about it later, to have work sharing, where we are doing joint activities, and then we are hoping to develop national pharmaceutical industries and also national regulatory authorities for regulatory compliance. But because the WHO has divided regulatory functions into actually 9 core regulatory functions, we are not able to do all of them. We are only doing 5 regulatory functions. That is regulatory system strengthening generally at the national and regional level. But the major 4 areas where we are focusing is medicine registration, GMP inspection, post-marketing surveillance, and pharmacovigilance. Those are the areas of focus of IGAD MRH. And just to highlight that in all of these core functional area, the lead teams and the lead partner to facilitate capacity building is WHO. And if you have any capacity building in interests that you would want as a team, as an association, and you would want IGAD to help, we can be able to coordinate with WHO. Luckily, we have Abraham, who was in WHO Ethiopia, being the lead person coordinating the capacity building at WHO, so we can be able to quickly come up with a design and develop a capacity building, not only for the regulators, because unfortunately the major MRH activities have been focused on regulators, but now we are realizing that the industry needs to also understand most of these things, so we can organize something for the industry also. There is also medicine registration and good manufacturing practice, which is a focus area of WHO and World Bank to try and establish that. Pharmacovigilance and marketing, post-marketing surveillance is majorly funded by USAID, and we have technical partners called MSH, for those who understand MSH, or it's called Medicine Technologies Pharmaceutical Services. And then we have United States Pharmacopoeia, which is USP, dealing with market surveillance. Then we are looking at all of them helping us to strengthen local manufacturers in the region. So I'll not go into specifics of what they are doing, each of them, but just to give you an overview on joint registration, to just to kickstart the discussion that Yibeltal is going to talk about, is that the process of IGAD MRH starts with consents from the manufacturer. That is, or the marketing authorization holder or the license holder. I know in Ethiopia they are called license holders. So then after that, once we get a consent, we sit down. When we sat down in Khartoum last year, we agreed that Ethiopia FDA is going to be the lead country in coordinating everything in terms of medicine registration and joint assessment. So even right now, I'm leaving a lot of activities to Yibeltal to be able to deal with it, because that is the purpose. IGAD is not supposed to manage the whole process. So it is EFDA to do the whole activities. So at that time, EFDA needs to select primary and secondary national regulatory authority. That is done objectively, and there is usually an allocation chart. Then after that, there is a joint assessment where two NMRs evaluate a particular dossier. There is a first assessor, then there is a second assessor, and then IGAD now coordinates in the nomination of the technical experts. Once we get those technical experts, evaluate, and then we have a joint meeting to discuss the deliberations. The areas of focus are those ones. There are 14 areas, 13 the disease categories, and we have listed them there, where you can the dossiers that are eligible for joint assessment is issued that can be chosen by EFDA should be in these categories. We are talking about reproductive health, maternal, child health, malaria, antimicrobials, medicines used for cancer, cardiovascular, mental health, HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, tropical disease, neglected tropical diseases, diabetes mellitus, and vaccine preventable disease. So you can see, like, for example, as we are waiting for COVID, it will be a good opportunity for us to coordinate a joint assessment for a COVID vaccine that is soon to come. So this is just timeline that we are still piloting. We have not been able to finalize it, but I think Yibeltal is going to talk about majority of it, so I will not go into details. Usually when a dossier is submitted, it is screened, then the dossier is after screening, it's allocated to primary NMRA expert, secondary NMRA expert. We expect that one to be done within 60 days. And then after that, we expect to issue responses to the manufacturer. The manufacturer responds, and then the second cycle continues like that till it's given a regional decision and then a national decision at country level. I think with that, I just want to conclude with these two issues. We are also having a web portal where it has a list of all registered medicines in the region. So if you are interested in checking whether a product is registered in Kenya, in Ethiopia, or in Uganda, you can be able to visit that site. It's something that we developed as IGAD. And also, I think another key achievement that we ever did was to have a first regional medicine quality survey. And we issued it, and you can see the areas where we collected samples in red. We could in red. The other areas in blue we were not able to collect because of the insecurity associated with that area. And we are going to have the same regional quality survey this year again. I think with that, I just want to say thank you. I will stop sharing, and maybe you can now remove me from being a host. Thank you. Over.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Thank you, Mr. Anthony, for giving us this brief highlight about the registration process and overview about the harmonization process. It's really a comprehensive method for or overview for us and the rest of the people joining us, I think. And I think we should go to the specifics now. Mr. Yibeltal, he is medicine registration expert who's going to.
Nathan?
Yes, yes.
Maybe Antonio, you have many duties. Maybe let us give a chance to
Okay.
ask a question for him, and he can leave us. Otherwise,
Okay.
we will not take a full time with that.
Okay, okay. So
Thank you. You can also remove me from being a host because I am.
okay, my
meeting.
yeah, my laptop is a bit stuck. That's why I'm sorry. Okay, if anyone has questions, please raise your hands and or text us so that we can ask a few questions for Mr. Anthony, and then we can move on.
Any person with any question that you want me to clarify before I leave, because I was going for another meeting.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I won't stay. But most of the questions can be answered by Yibeltal. I'm very confident about. I know you
Hello,
can
Nathan.
answer.
Yeah. Yes.
Hello,
Yes.
Nathan.
Hi, Lou. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, can I talk? Yeah. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Mr. Anthony, for the nice presentation, the current progress of the IGAD harmonization activities. But I have only one question. My question is to Mr. Anthony. What are the current initiatives IGAD currently doing to include veterinary medicines into that harmonization framework? Because I know there are some countries having separate regulatory agencies. That means parallel agencies for human medicines and the veterinary medicines regulatory agencies. For example, I know Kenya and Ethiopia have separate agencies. Is there any current updates or initiatives to incorporate this veterinary drug regulatory activities into this harmonization platform? Thank you.
Thank you, Hailo. Thank you for your question. Very, very relevant question. Just to answer you is that harmonization is a journey. It's not really something that we can do everything at a go from the beginning. Remember, right now as we speak, there is a lot of mistrust between countries. I can tell you from the few activities that we've done in several areas, there's a lot of mistrust, even within countries, not even across countries. So what we are trying to do initially is to focus on human medicines, unfortunately. Yeah, you know, there is a lot of conflict between even human medicine and veterinary medicine, especially like a country like Kenya. And I think, I'm not so sure of Ethiopia, but I think also Ethiopia has the same issues where there is a lot of mistrust between veterinarians and pharmacists. So among countries. So what we are trying to do right now at the beginning is to try and avoid areas that can easily lead to areas that can stop the process of trust building. So we are focusing on areas that countries have mutual interests and areas that have less controversies. And then over time, as we build trust and as we build confidence among member states, now we can start handling issues that are a bit controversial. Like I can give you an example, even in joint assessment of medicine for human, even to agree on figure how much will somebody pay for the whole regional registration is a controversial area. So we don't want to discuss that issue at this particular point in time. So we focus on areas that are agreeable. Like for example, technical guidelines in principle is accepted by everybody. Everybody knows it's CTD. So why can't we agree that every country receives its dossier CTD? And then we try and look at core areas, and we just highlighted those 12 categories of disease categories that we saw that is priority for the region. Then let's try and build trust with those 12 categories. Once we've built trust, and now countries can start working each other. Like right now, I can tell you, Ethiopia FDA colleagues did not know me or did not know the Uganda colleagues and did not know the Kenya colleagues 2 years ago. But right now, they can take a phone and call somebody in Kenya and ask one or two questions. So that's what we are trying to do slowly. And once we have established a system, which we are piloting currently, then we can be able now to go to areas like veterinary medicines. There are quite a number of areas that we have omitted, even in human. Like for example, you can see I did not talk about clinical trials. I did not talk about, let's say, for example, even licensing of practitioners. So there are quite a number of areas that we have left out, but we are just focusing on areas that we have understood from the industry is a problematic area. So what again we encourage is that these issues, first countries must sort themselves out as a regulatory authority in terms of like for example, Ethiopia needs to sort themselves out between the veterinary and the pharmacists, and Kenya also the veterinary regulation and the human regulation must be sorted out. Once all that is sorted, so that when they go for a meeting, they go as a country. They don't go as a divided country into a regional meeting. So we are trying also to avoid having meetings that are going to be controversial. I think I've answered you. Unless you feel not answered, I can highlight. Over.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. Aschalo has raised his hand. I think you can continue, Mr. Aschalo.
Okay, Nathan. Hello.
Hello. We can hear you.
So, thank you so much for just organizing this meeting, and I would like to appreciate you all. And my question is regarding the sustainability of this harmonization. So, as you already mentioned, Antonio, on your presentation, most of the support you got is from USAID and other NGO-like companies. So how in a sustainable way can each country contribute their dedication in assuring the quality of the product? So how can be a support of this medicine harmonization of this NGOs in a sustainability way? I mean, will it be this project sustainable if each countries are not contributing by themselves in supporting this harmonization? Just my worries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it has been a big problem in terms of managing sustainability. But as we can see from my presentation, most of the activities, because countries cannot start without having a funder to be able to bring them together. So most of these activities are just being kickstarted by funders, but most of them are being incorporated into normal processes of countries. As I said earlier when I was saying that when we were discussing this issue of joint assessment or joint medicine registration, we agreed that it is going to be managed by Ethiopia FDA. So you can see that by itself being managed by Ethiopia FDA is very sustainable, because once EFDA can be able to build up the system and countries appreciate that it is adding value to their work. Number two is that the dossier is not submitted to IGAD, so that we have another bureaucratic system. We are saying these dossiers is going to be submitted to individual countries as the way they are, so that we don't have to have another bureaucratic process where somebody pays IGAD and then comes to Ethiopia FDA. We are trying as much as possible to design a system that is going to be incorporated as normal in-country activity, so that an applicant, when they want to make an application, for example, for a joint assessment, when they are making the application, they say that this dossier is for joint assessment. Then it is allocated by the EFDA technical lead to say that this one is going to be evaluated first by, let's say, Uganda, followed by Sudan, then later it's going now to go or to be evaluated regionally. Then with the like, for example, marketing surveillance, most countries, like for example, we are looking at post-marketing surveillance, like Ethiopia is doing its own post-marketing surveillance alone. Kenya is also doing its post-marketing surveillance alone. Uganda is doing it alone. So what we are trying to tell them, why can't you harmonize in such a way that, and synchronize, and such that you say, instead of doing in-country alone, which you are doing it anyway, why can't we have a system where we agree at the beginning of the year as countries, this is what we are going to sample, this is the date all of us are going to sample, and you sample at the same time, so that you can be able to ascertain the quality for it at a regional level, rather than having it doing it in silo. So sustainability, as I said, is being inbuilt into in-country processes. But initially, I think the donors are just kickstarting it for people to be aware about these regional activities. Over.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anthony. I think one more question, and we will let you go.
Nathan. Hello, Nathan.
Yes.
There are also a couple of questions I received from the chat from Salamawit, Aida, Mohima.
I think one more question would be sufficient.
I hope a few questions here will be answered by Yibeltal, because it's almost about submitting procedure. If I'm allowed, I want to ask one more question to Mr. Anthony.
Yes.
As you know, East Africa Community harmonization is also going on the other side, and they have 2022 strategic plan. I have seen that, and they plan to come up with East African Community Agency as one single agency after 2 years. What is current status and future perspective for IGAD harmonization? Is there any similar approach to come like a single agency in the future? And if there is any cooperation or any agreement to work with two harmonization processes, like for example, East Africa Community and IGAD harmonization shares few countries in common. What is the problem to work together, if so?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think I will also try and see whether we can be able to answer a few of the questions in the chat. ESC is developing its own processes, and I might not be able to answer on behalf of ESC. Let me just be very clear. I know there are discussions to see whether they can develop an agency in ESC. That one is still going to be discussed with member states, and once it's agreed, we will see how it unfolds. But I'm aware at continental level, we are discussing about having one African medicine agency at continental level. That one is something that is coming. It's actually being discussed right now. They are waiting for countries to ratify the treaty. There is an ARMA treaty that is already approved at continental level. From the information I had recently, I think there were about 6 countries that have ratified. There are almost, I think, about 7 or 8 countries that have signed the treaty but not ratified. So for ARMA to come into being and to be established as a regional entity for Africa, there have to be a minimum of 15 countries ratifying the treaty, the Africa Union Treaty on Establishment of ARMA. Then that one, once we have 15 countries, that will kickstart looking for where it is going to be hosted from the 15 countries that have ratified, and then there will be discussions of how it's going to be funded, and then it's going to be established. But how I look at regional agencies, for example, it is not to face off national agencies. Whether we are going to start it in IGAD, IGAD is too early to say that we are planning it. We have not started discussing it yet. We've just started our joint activities this year in terms of medicine registration. So we are hoping that once we have established to a level where we can be able now to discuss it as a priority, I expect regional agency to be there, but not to replace national agencies. What we expect regional agencies is to help coordinate activities that are cross-cutting in countries. Like, for example, now we are going to talk about COVID vaccine, for example, coming. It doesn't make sense for that COVID vaccine to be submitted in each and individual country. So a regional agency can be able to coordinate a meeting where experts from each individual country come in together and evaluate it once, rather than having it being evaluated 7 times in IGAD region or 8 times in IGAD region if Eritrea comes on board. So regional agency should be able to coordinate such a thing when it's something that is cross-cutting, and also give guidelines, regional guidelines, and come and tackle regional issues. Then national issues are left for national regulatory authorities. So in IGAD, we are still early to discuss. In IGAD, in EAC, the MRH started almost 6 years ago. Now it's almost 10 years actually since the MRH started in EAC. So they are way ahead. So we should not worry. Once we will catch up with them. With regard to duplication of countries, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to tell agencies, especially Kenya and Uganda, to not nominate the same experts to participate in EAC and in IGAD. So they are quite different experts. But the advantage that we also have from EAC is that it actually fastens our IGAD MRH process, because we learn from those people from the EAC and the failures that they had in the EAC. They try and tell us, avoid this, do it this way, and then we discuss it. So it's also helping in terms of cross-pollinating whatever they have done in EAC coming to IGAD. So we are working together. It's not that we are working in silos. All of it is geared towards helping industry and the population to get safe and efficacious medicines. Just in quick, because I want to finalize, is that I've seen a question where somebody is asking whether we have activated MRH. That is, I think, is Salamewit. We have started, and I think Yibeltal is going to answer it. Then on issue about joint assessment and national country level decisions, we are saying that once a product has been reviewed at regional level, IGAD issues a letter so that it is not again redone at country level. I want to clarify something. What has been registered in Ethiopia today, and what has been registered in Kenya today, and what has been registered in Uganda, for example, today, they have not been reviewed regionally. So we'll develop something later to see whether we can be able to have mutual recognition. There's a lot of misconception that this MRH activities is mutual recognition. Like, for example, we take products that have been registered in Uganda, in Ethiopia, and all of them are automatically accepted in another country. In, let's say, in the ones that have been registered in Ethiopia are directly registered in Kenya. That is not true. That one brings a lot of mistrust. It is a journey, as I said earlier. We are trying to build first trust by assessors trusting each other. Then once we have reached a level where we are trusting each other, now we can be able to say, for example, these products that are common in our countries, can two countries, let's say, for example, develop a system where there can be mutual recognition. So mutual recognition is at the end of the process, not at the beginning of the process. Most people want it to be done immediately. So, and that one will answer the question about GMP, about GMP that has been approved in one country and not in another. So I want us to agree that as we are still building trust, so we will find like GMP right now will have countries agreeing on what to move forward rather than just bringing a certificate from, let's say, Kenya and wanting EFDA to approve it. That's what I just wanted to clarify in conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. I think most of the questions that have been asked have been covered by you already. So if we don't have any more questions, I think we should let you go. And I would like to thank Mr. Anthony for giving us such a brilliant highlight about IGAD, and I hope we will get to do this again. So thank you so much, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We should be able to have a physical meeting. Thank you.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm sorry. It would have been good if I would stayed long, but I'm sorry I had to leave for another meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If there is any question that you want me to answer, Yibeltal, you can chat me, and then I can be able to give you the response.
Okay.
Thank you. We will keep in touch with you, Mr. Anthony. Thank you for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.